every one of us in this room, we've got dreams, things with all our heart we'd really like to do. But I promise you, the only way to get there is to make today count. Start and be faithful in the small things.
Well, welcome back to There Is Always a Way. There's always a way to do the right thing with Dr. J. Strack. I'm Malachi O'Brien. We're in a series called Aim High. And so every day we've been doing these videos, and these will be also part of the podcast and different things that we're doing. We're helping leaders become better leaders. Dr. J is, I'm just getting the chance to talk to Dr. J. Dr. J is no stranger to many of you. He's a familiar voice and a friend. And just an amazing individual. So many things I want to say, but for time's sake, I won't.
Is that code for an old dude been around forever? Is that what you?
No, a very experienced individual.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Yes. So, but Dr. J, as we kick
very experienced baseball mitt
that
I've had since Little League. So it's. I know what you're saying. All right.
Yes. Well, today we're going to have a conversation about, Jay, you brought this up, and it makes me go, what is he talking about? The quest for the rainbow. Now, before we get to that, I think you have to unpack that. For those that don't know about Student Leadership University, who or what it is, there might be one or two human beings on the planet that don't know. But in reality, tell us a little bit about SLU and a little bit about the why of SLU, what it is, and then we'll get into today's conversation.
Well, thank you, buddy. I really believe the Lord gave us the vision for Student Leadership University. There were two or three issues that converged to bring us to a certain point. Number one, Dr. Bill Bright and I began to work on a project. And of course, Campus Crusade, and he's one of the great men of God of my generation, and it's the Jesus film. I mean, the legend, Dr. Bill Bright. So to get to work with him and be a good friend with him is one of the great highlights of my life. But we began to pray about I wonder what's happening to our students. We know of the incredible youth ministry. My whole life, I've been blessed to be invited by youth pastors to do youth camp, to do the state convention, to do the evangelism conference, to come to a crusade in the city and speak in the high schools and be in the football stadium, the rodeo arena, the armory, wherever, the ag center, wherever there was churches. So I wouldn't have a ministry if it wasn't for youth pastors, which, by the way, is why we started the Youth Pastor Summit some 24 years ago, and now it's all over the nation and virtual. The Youth Pastor Summit's 2 days of free training to youth pastors, because I believe youth pastors are the gatekeepers for this generation. But what happens when they leave the youth group and they leave home, leave their family, and go off to school or the military or get married, whatever, but they're on their own? They leave some pretty unique, exciting support groups for them. What happens to them? And the picture wasn't all that pretty. And so we began to ask leading youth pastors, what would they do over if they could do anything? And then they all began to talk about the frustration that some of their best students, when they went off to university and Dr. Wine and Cheese would walk out with their PhD and their little pipe, and we're not sure what's in the pipe, although we got our suspicions, but they want to do surgery on your faith. They want to pull up by the roots. That's why I thank God for these distinctive Christian universities that are out there. But simply put, we did this survey of 40 denominations and movements. And we got their leaders together, those that were called to work with college students, high school, the leaders for those various denominations of all size. I'm Southern Baptist, that's the largest Protestant denomination. But we had incredible buy-in by 40 denominations, movements. And the Great Commandment Network was a great part of that as well. So here we were, and we asked them to spend 6 months, 8 months, whatever they needed, and find out from their own denomination what's happening to your students after they've been gone for about 2 years. Are they in church? Are they in church at school? What's going on? Well, when they came back, now I also know enough about us to know sometimes we're a little competitive. Us Baptists, well, we're 2 percentage points higher than those charismatics, or, those Calvinist churches where they don't do the job that, you know how we get in the body. We all have our preferences, and somehow we think maybe those are God's preferences. But anyway, these denominations. So I said we got to leave ego and logo at the door. This isn't for bragging. I want everybody to be honest and to really help. Let's pray for each other. And by the way, they came in on a piece of paper, no name, everybody using the same kind of paper, same kind of pencil, wrote down their findings and put it in a bowl. We had no way of knowing who was what. There were 3 percentage points difference, 85 to 88%. Now this is back in the 90s, all right? But 85 to 88%, once they left church, left home, left the youth group, were not doing that well spiritually, because they're not in the youth group anymore. They're away from their family. And now it wasn't that they were atheists or burning Bibles or, going, but the church was just not that big of an issue. If they could go, they went. They felt like it, they went. And man, it was heartbreaking. And so we asked them, what would they do? Everybody to go back and get your best youth pastors together and ask them, what would you do if you could do anything? I got 50 leading youth pastors together. And they had to be in youth ministry for 15 years. And I said, if you get a mulligan, you get to do it over. What would you do? And they all said, we wish we had more time with our students that were serious about the call on their life. I said, you're talking about those that are going in the ministry? They said, yes, but yes. Teachers that want, they want to be a teacher or a doctor or a nurse or go in the military or go into politics or, they want to be in business, whatever it may be. But they still want their life to count for God. And I said, you got choir trip, you got youth camp, you got mission trips, you got all that going on. And they said, Jay, you may be the guy that we bring in to speak at a lot of those things. But when you're a youth pastor, you don't find out you got your least amount of time. You're worried so much about the canoes and the weather and who's going to what dorm and curfew and the elders getting upset about the music being played. It's too loud. I mean, all those, 101 is, you don't really even have time to be with your best, most motivated students. We wish we had a week where we could be with those that were serious about the call of God on their life and intentionally try to help them get ready for what we're learning happens when they go off on their own and they're off at school. So that's why we came up with the idea of Student Leadership University. Teach them how to think, dream, and lead, but most of all, baptize them in a strong biblical worldview. And it's a 4-year program. It's a week every year, a summer. And then we do them now to other places, other times of the year. But we go, it's the places you go, the people you meet, the books you read, and what you memorize that'll change your life. So SLU is a week-long intentional deal. Now, some of our overseas trips, Israel, Jordan, when we went to China, London, Oxford, Normandy, Paris, some of these trips are longer than a week. But DC is a full week. SLU, Orlando, San Antonio, and California is 4.5 days. But we spend these intensive times helping students, walking along with them during their 4 most formative years. And it's become a great tool and resource for youth pastors because they get to come, and the buses and the meals and the music and the side trips and the sessions and all that's taken care of. What they do is spend time with their leaders, both their adult leaders that they're spending time with, but also their key youth leaders. And it's turned out to be one of the most rewarding things we've ever done. So I ask youth pastors, bring me your 12 middle school students, your 12 high school students that really you sense they really want their life to count for the Lord. You put them in a room with hundreds and hundreds, sometimes 1,000 teenagers that are highly motivated from all over the country. It's pretty exciting, but the combination of the atmosphere, the teaching, the experiences, and the other students.
I love it. I love it. Well, Dr. J, and I wanted just to kick off our conversation today, and I'm glad you took the time to unpack that, because there's many that are listening and watching that have been in all 4 years of SLU. There's some that have been through 101, but not 201. And so again, just grateful for students right now that are watching this and youth pastors and leaders. Again, we ask you to share this. And again, this is all for you. These conversations are to help you in this moment. And so, Dr. J, let's take 10 minutes. I want to take 10 minutes to finish out this conversation. And you said something to me that really struck, I think, is our conversation for today. That's going to help the leaders that are listening or watching, whatever the age they are, is Quest for the Rainbow. Sounds like a movie or a book or an interesting movement. Quest for the Rainbow. Dr. J, what does that mean? Because as you were sharing with me before we began to record, I was going, wow, I've never thought about it that way. Never even knew that. So take 10 minutes and unpack that for us today.
Well, we all have a little wanderlust. We all have, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this? Wouldn't it be cool if I could do that? And the rainbow, all the way back to the Irish, the Irish are the ones who kind of added a little bit to this mystic weather phenomena, this beautiful rainbow in the sky. Certainly it has significance because in the scripture, it shows a covenant between God and mankind that the world will never be flooded again, right? But the Irish came up with that there's a leprechaun that hides a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I'm telling you, laddie. And then, of course, I know your favorite, Malachi, and Brent on our staff. He's a Lucky Charms guy, magically delicious with the little mushroom.
Absolutely.
And hello, I'm a Wheaties kind of guy. No, but anyway, simply put, there's something about the rainbow. Everybody sees that beautiful rainbow. And of course, the Wizard of Oz, somewhere over the rainbow. It's a beautiful picture of someday, somewhere, somehow, maybe, perhaps. Wouldn't it be great? The daydreams. So what I learned while writing a book years ago called Everything Worth Knowing, I learned growing up in Florida. I did a lot of research on the rainbow, and there's this beautiful phenomenon, all these shades and colors. And sometimes the worse the storm, the rainbow's the brightest, But there's something that I didn't know, and we learned it from NASA. The rainbow is a circle. So the rainbow is not, man, I'm going to follow that rainbow. And if I go from this point to that point and I follow the rainbow, there'll be my pot of gold. If I could get away from this church and go to a bigger church, if I could just get out of the 11th grade, I've been here 3 years. I mean, hello. I mean, and I don't, way to aim high, by the way. You can do it. Get a date with a real live girl. I mean, whatever it may be, but aim high, But the rainbow is this symbol, mystical thing that somewhere I'm going to find a pot of gold. But we know from NASA, the rainbow is a complete circle. Your rainbow is right where you are. Or so you may be in your room, you're going, hello, you may be, in a situation where you're not getting a lot of good positive feedback, or things aren't going that well. And by the way, what's going on? A lot of businesses and all are being affected, and they're being affected severely. And that tells you there was already some problems going on. The longer, the healthier it is, the longer you can go, right? But so simply, let's learn to bloom where you're planted. Let's quit thinking, man, if only I could go here, if only I had a different family, if only I could look like her or look like him, if I had that, I would be happy. No. The rainbow is right where you are. Bloom where you're planted. One of my favorite sayings, Malachi, wherever you are, be there. If you're in a situation right now and you got, my 7 members, be there. You got a youth group that hasn't grown and is going backwards, be there. Wherever you are, be there. You're in home, in your room, or having to do online schooling instead of being there for your junior and senior dance or junior and senior trip and all those fun things. Well, guess what? No spring break for most. We had a few that were the exceptions, and we see some of the consequences of partying while everybody else was taking it seriously. But I want you to know your moment is right now. And your rainbow, believe it or not, is right here, right where you are. So you got to bloom where you're planted. Be where you are. There's an old book that's kind of a motivational, inspirational classic. It's a very small little book called Acres of Diamonds. I'd encourage you to study it and read it. And what it is about, it's a guy named Ali Hafid that he had a dream of going around the world and finding fame and fortune. And so he sold his farm. He sold where he was. And he went off on this search. Years later, he came back. And what he found out and discovered was the people that took over where he was had found some rocks and some interesting quartz or whatever in the backyard were littered with them. When they went to plow. It was always in the way, and the ground was hard, and etc. Well, finally, they had a couple of the shiny ones up on a mantle, and a special guest was in their home and said, "What in the world is this?" He said, "Oh man, I got hundreds of those in my backyard." It was the largest, at that time, the largest find of diamonds in the world. Here was a guy who sold his home, gave up his family, gave up everything. I'm going to go make my fortune. I'm going to go be famous. I'm going to go make a great discovery. And he had in his own backyard the largest collection. I mean, so simply put, my background, drugs and drinking, physical abuse, sexual abuse, learning disabilities, etc. But you know what? My first messages and opportunities were speaking to those who had drug problems and alcohol problems. And before I knew it, I ended up writing 5 or 6 books dealing with the various issues that people deal with. And then being able to add from the spiritual dynamic. And of course, now you got hope when you're made complete. Our hearts are restless till we find our peace in thee, in the Lord. And so I was able to talk about a way of escape. And I spent my 10,000 high school assemblies. It was very simple, how to see beyond the glitter, because the scene looks good, alcohol and drugs, and the girls look good and the guys look good, and don't worry about anything. If it feels good, do it. The devil puts glitter all over this mess. He still does it with adultery or, pornography and all the movie. I mean, there's just such a battle for the mind and the body and the soul and the family. But simply put, I want you to understand that my worst nightmare, thinking, man, nothing, allowed me to write my first couple books, gave me opportunity to speak 10,000 high schools. Some newspapers said more than anybody on the planet, which just means I've been around a long time and had a big mouth. But all day, every day, I spoke in schools. And then I'd speak at night on how I found the answer. So it opened up doors spiritually for me, churches. It opened up schools and universities. And then, of course, the more I learned, guess what? And the more things I worked on to make up for my deficiencies, it gave me some new strengths. Remember, we talked about assessing your strengths and weaknesses. So you've got a bunch of lemons, you can make lemonade out of it. You've got a rocky past, there may be some diamonds in that. There may be some things you could use and harvest and mine that'll make a difference in other people's lives. One of my favorite sayings, I'll close on this, it's called "Don't waste your sorrows." If you've gone through cancer, and I think about St. Jude's and what some of these children go through and teenagers go through at young ages, and the Shriners Hospital, some of these amazing places. And I've had a daughter that's had to have a lot of surgeries and watched what she's struggled with, and being alone and being lonely and self-image, and the pain in knowing there's some things I'll never be able to do. But I've learned, don't waste your sorrows. So I wrote a book on how to make peace with your past. And little did I know all the people that would be helped by that. And I talked about the healing of the memories and make peace with your past. So here's my message. Don't crucify your today. We need to do a session on this in the future, Malachi. Don't crucify your today between two thieves, the thief of yesterday and the thief of tomorrow. Some of us never get over what happened to us yesterday. We can't put it behind us. We can't get over that guy, that girl, the physical abuse. And listen to me, hear me. I know how bad it hurts to be called a loser. I know how bad it feels to be abandoned. 6 broken homes, 6 foster homes. Hello. I know what it's like to be physically abused, sexually abused, verbally abused. And I know what it's like to make dumb, careless choices. So like I said, I'm all American and a bunch of guacamole, okay? But simply put, I've learned, don't waste your sorrows. And man, what the Lord has done for us gives us a chance to turn around and help people that are struggling with the same things. So don't crucify your life, your today. Today matters. If you would just wake up every day and have it written down, whatever day, Wednesday, today matters. Thursday, today, Sunday, today matters. What I do today determines my tomorrow. So some of us are, well, tomorrow things will be better. Tomorrow I'm going to get started. Tomorrow I'll lose that weight. Tomorrow I'm going to start reading. Tomorrow, no. Today. Take those baby steps today, and pretty soon you'll be running. but today matters. So don't crucify today. Don't lose today. Put to death today, because the thief of tomorrow, the thief of yesterday. Today.
I love it. Dr. J, we will do a session on that. And so thank you today for the quest for the rainbow. And honestly, to everybody who's listening or watching, just make it a point to bloom where you're planted, make the most of today. I want to encourage everybody who's been with us to go back and watch previous episodes. You can find them on the Student Leadership University Facebook page and several other pages that are going to be out there, and people will be broadcasting this. And then honestly on the podcast that's forthcoming, Dr. J's podcast that's forthcoming, There's Always a Way. We're just excited to spend time having these conversations that we believe will be of value to you. And wherever you are, whoever you are, whenever you are, it'll be a help. So Dr. J, thank you again. And this has been There's Always a Way with Dr. J Strack. Again, reminding everybody there's always a way to do the right thing. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. God bless.